Christian Horner hits back at George Russell's claims about Red Bull's struggles and Verstappen's behavior, exposing the fierce F1 rivalries and defending his team's resilience. This clash of titans has its roots in the contrasting fortunes of Red Bull over the past 2 seasons. To fully grasp the magnitude of this situation, we need to examine the events that led to this confrontation, starting with Red Bull's extraordinary performance in the 2023 season. That year, Red Bull Racing achieved a level of dominance rarely seen in the sport's history. The team secured an astounding 22 victories out of 23 races, a feat that left their competitors in awe and, perhaps, a touch of despair. This unprecedented success set an incredibly high bar for the following season, creating expectations that would prove challenging to meet. As the 2024 season unfolded, the landscape began to shift dramatically for Red Bull. The team found itself facing a series of unexpected hurdles, both in terms of personnel changes and on-track performance. It was against this backdrop of uncertainty and change that the controversy between Horner and Russell began to brew. The catalyst for this confrontation came during the 2024 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. George Russell, known for his forthright nature, made some pointed comments about Max Verstappen and the Red Bull team. These remarks were not merely casual observations, but contained serious allegations about the internal dynamics of Red Bull Racing. Russell's comments were particularly scathing when discussing Verstappen's behavior during challenging race situations. He stated, "I'm not questioning his driving abilities one single bit, but the second he does not have the fastest car, let's take Budapest as an example, he crashes into Lewis, he slams his whole team, and he loses the plot." This reference to the Budapest race was not arbitrary. During that event, Verstappen had indeed been involved in a collision with Lewis Hamilton and had subsequently criticized his own team's strategy. The incident had created tension within the Red Bull camp, but Russell's comments brought it back into the spotlight, reigniting the controversy. However, Russell didn't stop there. He went on to make a startling claim about the aftermath of this incident. He said, straight away after that race, 25% of his engineering team were sending their CVs to Mercedes, to McLaren, to Aston Martin, because they said they can't deal with a guy like that. This allegation was explosive, to say the least. Russell was essentially suggesting that a significant portion of Red Bull's engineering staff was so disgruntled with Verstappen's behavior that they were actively seeking employment elsewhere. If true, this would indicate a serious morale problem within one of F1's top teams, potentially undermining their competitive edge. It's crucial to understand that Russell's comments didn't come out of nowhere. They were part of a larger narrative that had been building throughout the 2024 season. Red Bull had been facing challenges on multiple fronts, and these issues had become increasingly apparent as the season progressed. One of the most significant blows to Red Bull came in the form of key personnel departures. The team lost Chief Technical Officer Adrian Newey, who moved to Aston Martin, and Sporting Director Jonathan Wheatley, who joined Sauber. These departures were not just a loss of talent, but also a wealth of experience and knowledge that had been instrumental in Red Bull's previous successes. Adrian Newey, in particular, had been a key architect of Red Bull's technical dominance. His move to Aston Martin was seen as a major coup for the rival team and a significant loss for Red Bull. Newey's ability to innovate and push the boundaries of aerodynamic design had been a cornerstone of Red Bull's success, and his departure left a void that would be challenging to fill. Similarly, Jonathan Wheatley's move to Sauber represented another loss of experience and expertise. As sporting director, Wheatley had played a crucial role in Red Bull's strategic operations, and his departure added to the sense of instability within the team. These high-profile exits had already fueled speculation about internal issues at Red Bull. The fact that such key figures were leaving a team that had been so dominant just a season before raised questions about the team's long-term stability and competitiveness. Moreover, Red Bull's on-track performance had seen a noticeable decline after the Spanish Grand Prix. Teams like McLaren and Ferrari, which had been trailing Red Bull in previous seasons, were now consistently outperforming them. This sudden shift in the competitive balance added credence to rumors of internal strife at Red Bull and suggested that the team was struggling to maintain its edge in the face of personnel changes and increased competition. But Christian Horner was not about to let Russell's comments go unchallenged. His response was swift and direct. Horner said, "I'd be more worried about other issues if I was George." This opening salvo set the tone for Horner Horner's entire response, suggesting that Russell might be better served focusing on his own team's challenges rather than speculating about Red Bull's internal affairs. Horner then systematically dismantled Russell's claims. He stated, "I don't know where he thinks and who he thinks they were offering their services to, but all the key people have made long-term commitments to the company." To further reinforce his point, Horner specifically mentioned Gianpiero Lambiase, Verstappen's longtime race engineer, as an example of the team's stability. He emphasized, "If you look at people like Gianpiero Lambiase and the key members of the engineering team, they are all on long-term contracts." But Horner didn't stop at merely refuting Russell's claims. He used this opportunity to provide insight into the cutthroat nature of Formula One politics. One of the less pleasant sides of the business is the lengths that will be gone to try and capitalize on other issues in other teams. Horner thinks that Russell's comments were part of a deliberate strategy to destabilize Red Bull. Secondly, it positioned Red Bull as a target of such tactics due to their previous success, reinforcing the team's status as the benchmark in F1. Horner drove this point home with a strong metaphor. "I've said it before, but the higher you rise, the sharper the knives." Horner thinks that their dominance had made them a prime target for rivals seeking to gain any advantage, even through off-track means. Horner further elaborated on this point, saying, "And they got pretty sharp at some points during 2024, but when there is so much at stake, other teams will use whatever tools they have to try and destabilize what has been a hugely successful team." To fully appreciate the weight of Horner's response, we need to consider the broader context of Red Bull's 2024 season. The team had indeed faced significant challenges. The departures of Adrian Newey and Jonathan Wheatley were not insignificant losses. Additionally, Red Bull's on-track performance had seen a noticeable dip. After the Spanish Grand Prix, the team found itself consistently outpaced by McLaren and Ferrari. This sudden shift in the competitive order was jarring for a team that had been so dominant just the previous year. The decline in performance was particularly evident in the results. While Red Bull had won 22 out of 23 races in 2023, their win rate in 2024 dropped significantly. The team struggled to maintain their previous level of dominance, with other teams closing the gap and often outperforming them. One particularly notable incident occurred during the Hungarian Grand Prix, which Russell had referenced in his comments. During this race, Verstappen was involved in a collision with Lewis Hamilton and subsequently criticized his team's strategy. This event became a focal point for discussions about Red Bull's challenges and Verstappen's behavior under pressure. It's within this context that we can fully understand the power of Horner's message. By directly addressing Russell's claims and reframing the narrative, Horner was not just defending his team, he was reasserting Red Bull's resilience and superiority. Interestingly, Russell's comments and Horner's response were not isolated incidents. They were part of a larger dialogue involving other teams as well. McLaren CEO Zak Brown had previously mentioned an increase in CVS coming from Red Bull. Moreover, Mercedes team principal Toto Wolff had corroborated Brown's statement, saying, "Zak is absolutely correct. We are seeing Red Bull CVs through all the levels." These comments from rival team principals indicate that the issue of Red Bull staff potentially seeking opportunities elsewhere was not just speculation from a single driver. However, it's crucial to note that neither Brown nor Wolff provided specific numbers or timeframes for these CV submissions. This lack of concrete details allowed Horner to maintain his stance that key team members remained committed to Red Bull. The Verstappen factor in this controversy cannot be overlooked. Russell's criticism was not just about team dynamics, but specifically targeted Verstappen's behavior when faced with challenges. Russell's comment about Verstappen losing the plot when not in the fastest car touched upon a sensitive topic in F1, a driver's ability to perform under less than ideal circumstances. This criticism indirectly questioned Verstappen's temperament and its impact on team morale. By suggesting that engineering staff were looking to leave due to Verstappen's behavior, Russell was essentially implying that the driver's attitude was detrimental to the team's stability.
Yes, the breaking news is Formula One news. Red Bull have announced that Sergio Perez will be leaving the team after 4 seasons. Man in the know, Craig Slater, joins me now.
Perez's exit from Red Bull came as a shock to many fans. After a challenging 2024 season, the team decided to part ways with the veteran driver. Perez's performance had taken a noticeable dip, with his last podium finish coming at the 5th race in China. This downturn in form had significant consequences for Red Bull. as they lost their grip on the Constructors' Championship, slipping to third place behind McLaren and Ferrari.
Well, it's no surprise this is happening, Mike. We've been reporting for some time that he would be replaced at Red Bull. His form was unsustainable.
The statistics paint a clear picture of Perez's struggles. He managed to score only 152 points, a mere 34.70% of Max Verstappen's impressive 437-point haul. To put this into perspective, other team pairings showed much closer performance gaps. Oscar Piastri secured 292 points to Lando Norris's 374, while Carlos Sainz earned 290 points compared to Charles Leclerc's 356. These numbers highlight the significant disparity in performance between Perez and his teammate, which ultimately contributed to Red Bull's loss of the Constructors' Championship. With Red Bull finishing only 77 points behind Victor's McLaren, it's clear that better results from Perez could have made a substantial difference in the championship standings. Perez's career at Red Bull spanned 89 Grand Prix races, from Bahrain 2021 to Abu Dhabi 2024. His qualifying performances tell a tale of two halves. Up until the Miami Grand Prix in 2023, Perez maintained an average qualifying position of 5.1, consistently placing the car in the top 5. However, after Miami, his average qualifying position plummeted to 10.05, highlighting the extent of his struggles. This contrast in qualifying performance illustrates the sudden and drastic decline in Perez's form. The drop from an average position of 5.1 to 10.05 represents a significant loss of competitiveness. What led to this decline? Several factors seem to have contributed. The pressure of competing alongside Max Verstappen, coupled with car development that favored his teammates' driving style, created a challenging environment for Perez. The internal dynamics within the team and constant comparisons to Verstappen's performances only exacerbated the situation. Former McLaren mechanic Mark Priestley, speaking to Casino Uden Rofus, offered insight into the situation. It's not a major surprise. The only surprise with the Sergio Perez situation is that it's taken this long for a decision to be made. It's clearly a lot more complicated behind the scenes instead of the decision being made on the driver's performance. Otherwise, with Red Bull's history, Perez would have been gone a long time ago. This comment suggests that factors beyond just on-track performance may have played a role in the timing of Perez's departure from Red Bull. Now, at the age of 34 and soon to turn 35, Perez finds himself at a crossroads. In a recent press conference in Lyon, he said, "My priority is to enjoy myself, to do things I haven't done, to be with my family. In the next 6 months, I will make a decision on what I want for the next step in my career." This statement marks a significant shift in Perez's approach. For the first time in his career, he's taking a step back to reassess his priorities. But what's truly surprising is his openness about the uncertainty of his F1 future. He said, "It's too early to give an answer as to whether I intend to return to Formula One. Everything happened very quickly at the end of last season. I didn't expect to leave the team." Perez's focus on family life is a refreshing change from the relentless pursuit of racing glory. He explained, "My biggest motivation now is to take my children on a good path and be more present in their lives. I am very excited to be with my family because in F1 you only think about being a better driver. Preparing yourself better, you don't have time for anything else." These statements provide a glimpse into Perez's mindset following his departure from Red Bull. They suggest a period of reflection and a potential shift in priorities, with family life taking center stage for the first time in his career. But while Perez contemplates his future, his father, Antonio Perez Garibay, has hinted at a potential move to Formula E for his son. Antonio Perez Garibay told Spanish outlet Marca that, "Formula E is a category that has been going for 11 years and is still rising. Now it is the second best category, and in 5 years, it will be the main one. Watch out. We might see Checo Perez racing here. That wouldn't be a problem." This statement has caught the attention of Formula E insiders. Alberto Longo, co-founder of the all-electric racing series, was quick to respond to the possibility of Perez joining their ranks. Longo said, "We welcome him with open arms. I also say that it is not the decision of the championship's promoters, which is us, but rather his decision and then that of the main teams, because in the end, they are the ones who decide who sits in each of their cars." Longo's enthusiasm for potentially having Perez in Formula E is evident. In a previous statement to Sports Illustrated, he had said, "I talk to Checo constantly and I hope he makes a leap to the real competition." Formula E is his home. The doors are open to him, and he is welcome. The prospect of Perez in Formula E is intriguing. The series has been a popular destination for ex-F1 drivers, with 5 former F1 pilots set to compete in the 2025 championship. Jean-Éric Vergne, Nick de Vries, and Pascal Wehrlein are among the ex-F1 drivers who will be on the Formula E grid in 2025. The more evenly matched cars in Formula E, combined with the series' focus on street circuits, could play to Perez's strengths. Unlike Formula 1, Formula E's cars are much more evenly matched, with teams using the same chassis, though manufacturers are allowed to build their own powertrain. This could potentially level the playing field and allow Perez's driving skills to shine. However, Formula E isn't the only option on the table for Perez. The possibility of a return to Formula 1 still looms large, with Perez himself not ruling it out entirely. Perez hinted on that. "For sure, if I receive a good, interesting project, then I'll definitely consider it and think about it. It will all come in its own time." This openness to interesting projects has sparked speculation about potential F1 comebacks. However, the landscape of F1 has changed since Perez's departure. Many teams have locked in their driver lineups for the coming years, potentially limiting Perez's options. An analysis of the current F1 grid shows limited opportunities for Perez. Williams is full for the next few years. Haas has brought in Ocon and Behrman for several years. Aston Martin is not likely to consider Perez as Alonso's successor, and Alpine has an abundance of drivers. Among the current F1 teams, only Audi might be a possibility, but they seem more inclined towards younger talent. One intriguing possibility that has emerged is the potential Cadillac F1 team. The American squad is hoping to join the F1 grid in 2026 and is reportedly looking for an experienced F1 driver to partner with an American talent. Perez, with his wealth of experience and substantial sponsorship backing, could be an attractive prospect for the new team. However, joining a new team like Cadillac would come with its own challenges. As a new entrant, Cadillac would likely need a startup period to become competitive in Formula 1. This could mean Perez, if he were to join, might find himself racing at the back of the grid initially. It's worth considering whether this prospect would be appealing to Perez at the age of 35. Speaking of sponsorship, the commercial aspects of Perez's career remain a significant factor in his future decisions. Carlos Slim, president of key Perez backer Escuderia Telmex, has confirmed ongoing support for the Mexican driver. Slim said, "We have been with many drivers many times. We were with Bruno Senna, we were with Pietro Fittipaldi, and we were with the 2 Mexican drivers with Checo and with Esteban Gutierrez. If there was an opportunity to talk about something with Franco Colapinto, it would not be anything related to Checo. We always seek to support Latin American drivers. Franco is doing very well." This statement suggests that Perez's sponsorship backing remains strong, potentially opening doors for future racing opportunities. The mention of Franco Colapinto, who has been signed by Alpine for the 2025 season as a reserve driver, indicates that Escuderia Telmex's support for Latin American drivers extends beyond just Perez. IndyCar has been a popular destination for former F1 drivers in the past, with names like Marcus Ericsson, Nigel Mansell, and Romain Grosjean making the switch. The series offers competitive racing and could provide Perez with new challenges and opportunities. However, Perez's decision isn't just about choosing between different racing series. There's also the possibility that he might step away from racing altogether, at least temporarily. As Mark Priestley said, "Sometimes drivers come towards the end of their long F1 careers, and when they come to the end of their time in the sport, they might want to prioritize time with family." Perez has multiple options ahead of him, though. I don't doubt it.
Lewis Hamilton posted this picture of himself on the slopes. Around the same time, so did Angela Cullen, Lewis's old physio. She can be seen here wearing a red jacket, some would say Ferrari, and in the background, a lot of eager fans have picked up the fact that there's a number 44 sign. Now, hats off to the fans. They've done some research on this, and they seem to think that they're both at the same resort, and this is some sort of clue as to Angela returning to Lewis's side.
Is Angela Cullen making a surprise return to Lewis Hamilton's side? The rumors began with two seemingly ordinary social media posts. First, Lewis Hamilton shared a picture of himself skiing in Colorado, coinciding with his 40th birthday celebration. In the caption, Hamilton wrote, "Another one around the sun. Thanks for all the birthday love. Hard at work already. Talk soon." While this post might not have raised eyebrows on its own, it set the stage for what was to follow. Shortly after, Angela Cullen posted her own ski slope photo. It was the details in this image that caught the attention of crazy fans. Cullen was wearing a bright red jacket, a color immediately associated with Ferrari's iconic Rosso Corsa. More intriguingly, in the background of her photo, there was a sign displaying the number 44, Hamilton's well-known race number. These two posts, occurring around the same time and sharing similar themes, sent the F1 fans into a frenzy of speculation. Fans began to wonder, were Hamilton and Cullen at the same resort? Was the red jacket a subtle hint at a Ferrari connection? And what about that number 44 sign? Could it be mere coincidence, or was it a deliberate nod to Hamilton? To fully appreciate the significance of these rumors, we need to revisit the history of Hamilton and Cullen's professional relationship. Their partnership began in 2015 and lasted until the start of the 2023 season. During this time, Cullen wasn't just Hamilton's physiotherapist. She became an integral part of his success, both on and off the track. Hamilton has spoken highly of Cullen's impact on his career. In one notable statement, he said, "People for sure won't understand it naturally because they see it from a distance, but she has been one of the greatest things that's happened to me in my life." Their partnership coincided with some of Hamilton's most successful years in Formula One. With Cullen by his side, Hamilton secured 4 consecutive world championships between 2017 and 2020, equaling Michael Schumacher's record of 7 titles. He also became the first driver to surpass 100 Grand Prix victories and pole positions during this period.